Hello, I am your daimyo, Boba Fett.
Nah, only kidding. It's me. Hi, I'm Ian, and you're watching Dragonborn Industries, and happy Star Wars Day. Well, I didn't know if I was going to get to doing this stream today, so I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm glad that you're all with me. If the levels of the volumes or anything are wrong, let me know, and I will change those, but hopefully you should be able to hear music and me. I'm going to be painting up Cad Bane from Star Wars Legion today, as I have him primed and ready, and we're going to be having some fun going through that. Right, just going to grab some water. One thing I need, thin some paints. So I'm going to try and keep this quite close to the Clone Wars. So I'm going to go for those kind of cartoony colours and that vibrancy with the browns for the leatherwork, and then hopefully those metallics on his bits and pieces, on his greebles. And then the face, we're going to go through a selection of blues. Hello, Fluffy Cat Poof. How are you today? Right. It's a nice chilled stream just to kind of, yeah, celebrate the day. There it is. So I'm going to be starting off with Rhinox hide. This is from Citadel. I'm going to use this as a dry brush over the black of the primer to kind of begin the layering of his clothing. And then we'll put the base layers on the face after that. Because I've already got the base painted up most of the way, I'm going to use quite a thin dry brush. And it's quite a heavy dry brush for this, because we are going to be covering the majority of the body in it. I'm going to be going side to side rather than like as you would with like a highlighting dry brush when you go downwards. I'm going side to side because I want that to go into a lot of those recesses while still leaving some of the black in the very deep ones. But this is going to be our base layer. For those of you who have seen Clone Wars and seen Bad Batch and some of the other shows that have Cad Bane in them, you'll know who he is. For those who don't, Cad Bane is a bounty hunter who you can use as part of, as an operative in Star Wars Legion. That's what this miniature is from Atomic Mass Games. I just really like him because he's got that proper Western style cowboy aesthetic with like the big rimmed hat, the dual pistols, holsters, the the bullets that you can see. I suppose it's not really bullets for Star Wars, really more than bolts, I guess, closer to 40k. But either way, it's very, very cool. And it was a very good concept. If you've seen the book of Boba Fett, it turns up in that too. So like I said, I'm just using a very small dry brush, but it's quite a heavy dry brush. I don't know if you'll be able to see that on there from the thing. So it's still quite a wet dry brush as this is, because it is a base layer, but I want that black to show through, because I find it makes the browns really deep So we're just going over everything side to side rather than down from the top. Because that will give me the coverage that I want. It's quite fun doing this one as well because he's got the that blue skin tone, which I find quite fun. I'm a big fan of the Tau from 40k, but I haven't quite mastered blue skin tones yet, so this will be a good practice for those as well. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, I rarely post my Tau pictures because I haven't painted them in a while. However, I am a believer in the greater good. The greater good. So with the hat, it doesn't overly matter at the moment which directions you're going, but you want to be careful not to get too many brush strokes. We need to make sure that we're either covering them up by going different ways and not just one way, or we're putting enough on that we are getting the coverage that we need. I am going to get inside the rim underneath the hat. I don't need to be super careful at this point, but I still don't want to get too much brown in and around the face because obviously it's a different sort of tone to the blues. Hopefully as well later on. I could use it in the eyes to make the reds a bit richer because obviously Cad has some of those red eyes, but I think I'm going to leave them be for the time being and then I'll work it all up later on. So, got the majority of the outside there covered, but there's just bits in the legs there and going into the back of his coat. We want to make sure we get that all covered as well. And I don't think, once they're covered, I need to really go too far because we can use, well, they're in the shade really, and because I'm doing all of mine in an urban environment, I don't need to put anything like too much grime or dust or any OSL from natural light sources in there. Okay, so I do believe, minus that tiny bit of a collar just there, which I'm just going to get now, that should be the base layers with that Rhinox hide all on there. Hopefully you can see that on that camera. But I'm going to have a quick look at a reference picture so I can see the back of his head, because I want to make sure that I get that bit right. So bring up a reference. I find it easier to paint with a reference for things like this, but it's quite cool that obviously being Star Wars, we have lots of that on Google and images and through all of the medias that we can have a look at, whereas I find that like sometimes when I'm painting D&D minis or Starfinder minis, it's all about you know, using your own kind of creativity to find color schemes and go from there. So sometimes it's quite nice to just paint a mini that you have a reference for, and hopefully with a reference I can do it justice. So his undershirt and his kind of like hood that comes up around the back of his neck underneath his hat are all kind of like a dark grey to black with some brown highlighting. So I might go in on those bits in there, which I don't know if you'll see on that camera, and go in and reapply some darker tones. I might use, in fact, actually, I know what I'm going to use. I'm going to use one of my favourite paints. I'm going to use the Contrast Templar Black, or Black Templar, whichever way around you say it. I'm not good with paint names, but I know which one I mean. I'll read it out properly when I get it out. Black Templar. So, this is probably one of my favourite paints. This is a contrast paint from Citadel. I believe there's an equivalent Army Painter paint, which I also am a fan of. But right now, I'm out of that one. So Black Templar it is. Right, where else do I need to put this on? So, let's look at... There's a band on his hat, but I'm not too bothered about that. Yeah, it's just going to be inside that shirt. So, hopefully it's dry. Because what I don't want to do is activate any of that if it's not fully dry by adding the contrast paint to it. But I do believe, having only given it a thin coating, I should be alright. Yeah. And then what I will do in a bit is, hopefully, with this being a contrast, it should leave some of the brown at the highest points. And then from there, I will probably add a little bit of Mechanicus grey, or like a stone grey, or uniform grey from Army Painter. Something that's a little bit, I suppose, more neutral, just to kind of bring out those highlights of that undershirt. But I'm not going to do that until we get into doing the skin tones and whatnot. For now, we're just going to get those base layers on. There we go. It's a nice little bit of shirt showing just underneath his bag strap and just above his bandolier belt, which is a bit of a pain, but we're there. Hopefully that should. Don't know if that will show up on there. The camera zoomed in quite a bit, so it's quite hard to fully focus. So what I will do, I reckon, is possibly at the end of the stream get one of the other cameras to focus in a bit better. So I don't think I can change that now. But let's see if we can have a look there. So if I use my hand behind it, it might be a little fuzzy. There you go. So you see the shirt and the bandolier, and there is a tiny bit just underneath that bandolier. We want to make sure we get into there. Then I might also go around some of the other bits, like his breathing tubes. Let's go around that, because Cad has these lovely, lovely breathing tubes, which help him in places that have things like dioxide gas and or other hazards that could be potentially dangerous, and it means he can carry on chasing his bounties. He's a stone cold killer. And he kits himself out as such. I think we'll do those jetpacks on his, well, jump boosters on his legs in black as well. Yeah, fluffy cat poop. Okay, if it is a little fuzzy, I think what I'll do is I'll leave it where it is for this stream, and then I think in future streams, if I move that camera to somewhere above here, I was hoping that where it was, the zoom feature on it might pick it up, but I think OBS might lower the quality, which is a shame. But I'll take some good pictures and I'll put them up on my socials. so that people can see them. Hopefully, if anybody watching is around on Friday, tomorrow, which is the 5th, I'll be painting live with Craig from Dragon School Studios on his channel, and yeah, I'll move it for that so that hopefully people can see a better image, because I'd rather that than have it too fuzzy. But this is just a fun little stream because it's Star Wars Day. So I'm just going around now, and I'm re-blacking out the mechanical bits that he's got around his body. So like things like his gauntlets, he's got these forearm bits where he can control, most of the time, things like explosive devices and other bits like his breathing apparatus from. And if you imagine them like Mandalorian gauntlets, like they have these weaponized braces. Here's something somewhat similar, but I'm going to do those in the reference that I have is slightly skew towards the Book of Boba Fett, but I like the blue on there because it matches that skin tone that he has, and I think with that we're going to see like a little bit of pop off those like natural colours like the browns. So it'd be cool to have those blues in there, not just on the face. Okay, so that's those bits done. Now I'm going to base layer up his face. So I'm going to use Cantor Blue to start with. This is again another Citadel one. I would use Ultramarine Blue from both the Army Painter or Citadel, but I'm out of that as well. That's okay, because I really do like Cantor Blue. And I'm going to mix it all up, and then I'm going to try and lighten the tone with each individual layer until we get to a kind of wolf grey, I guess, is the colour that I'm looking for in the highlights. I guess using that as my mixing pot. Right. So I don't need too much because it's only the face that I need to do. It's only really a T-piece. It's like, hopefully you'll see that. Because of like the way he's got his headdress on and his sort of cowl that he wears. It goes up his neck and then up the sides of his face. So I don't need to actually do too much in the way of blue, which is good. Right. Some reference on that. So I'm going to thin this one down quite a bit so this goes into a lot of those recesses. So he's got a lovely amount of detail on his face for a miniature. I am going to try and avoid the eyes so that I can fill those with red, as they are the colour of his eyes. And build those up to have a little orange hue to them. Almost a glow, but not quite. I'm trying to be really careful not to get the underside of his hat. Just trying to stabilise my brush on my hand, which I have very, very, very shaky hands. So I usually find if I hold the Mini and have the base of my hand somewhere resting on the stand or on my other hand, I can get in there and do those really tiny micro movements. There we go. And again, you won't overly see that on that camera there, but we have the start of the blue going in. And then I'm going to put that same blue onto those arm braces. And then I'll go around with maybe some lead belcher to take some of the corners off, maybe make them look a little bit battered. Maybe some Necron compound to put in some extra highlights, but I don't know yet. Just gonna see where it goes and hopefully get a decent cartoon look to him. There we go. I'm just taking it nice and light, because I don't need to go too far, and I don't want to do any bits that I've already done in brown, because the blue's going to show up quite a bit against those, or quite well against it, I should say. And again, just trying to stabilise my hand as I go around those tubes there. So we're going to paint those up probably in something light to really show them up as they come out of these gauntlets and then go in under his coat sleeves. So I kind of want those to pop out a bit more. But for now, I think that Cantor blue is working quite well. Certainly doing its job of pulling out different areas of colour and making it look a bit more dynamic. Which is hopefully what we're after. I'm just trying to stabilise my hand as I go under the arm there, because there's like a small gap between his arm and the coat, as his right hand is back in the drawn position. And I just don't want to get it on that coat or the bag. But I would like to get it all. Right. So, let me have a quick look over you. Good. Good. So, that should be the base layers there, and it's mostly Cantor blue and Rhinox hide. That is the majority of this mini, which is nice and simple, to be honest. See if I can bring that closer for people, but if anybody's watching on YouTube, I apologise. I think OBS is taking down my quality of my 4K camera. Looks a little fuzzy to me there, but there we go. And then I shall start working on, I reckon, I'm probably going to get in and do that grey that's on the undercoat and on the collar that comes up. If I can get those out of the way, I don't need to go and touch any more of that, or ruin anything as I go in. And then I might do the leatherworks and the browns. So I think we'll probably get a base layer on the leather after we do the grey. So I reckon, what have I got access to here? We've got Orc Grey from the Army Painters Game Master Starter Kit. That's quite a nice one. And we've got Mechanica Standard. Let's just see which one of these ones is darker. So that one feels rather empty. So we might be going with Orc Grey. We thought I had another Mechanicus. Oh, right there. That one feels a bit fuller. A bit more full. English. Yeah, they're pretty close to each other, to be honest. Let's have a look. So, I would probably go with the Mechanicus to begin with, and then go up to the Orc, and then maybe something lighter after that. So, we're going to... Again, I don't need too much. Put that on there. Get some clean water. Thin it out. There we go. So, here we go. Make sure my brush is nice and fine. In fact, actually, I'm going to put on my nerd glasses because there are some finer bits in this and I don't want to sink into any of the recesses, especially while the paint is thinned down. So, these are Vision Aid. I think they're dental glasses. They work for me. I'm sure most of you out there have probably got a set, to be honest. There we go. Looking good. So at this point, I'm trying to keep my hand nice and stable. And then I am going around all of those edges that already on that bit, so it's kind of like edge highlighting. This is going to get blended in. We've just got a few nice straight lines here. We catch some light. Just get those all touched up, ready for some proper highlighting when it's all nice and dried. Okay, so it's quite thick at the moment, but what I'm hoping will happen is when let's see if I can get that again to look a bit closer for you. When I go in and blend those in shortly, it'll probably be with some more of the contrast black, but only in those recesses, and then like drag that up into the grey. So hopefully we get a nice little blend on that. Just need to go around now and get the bits of the face cowl. I really want to try and pay close attention to those corner areas that he's got that T-shape on his face, because that's going to really kind of pop out and give it that definition between the two textures. Yeah, little bobble just in behind where his ear would be. I don't overly need to get too much more, I don't think. And some of those little bits on the respirator. Just to add a little bit of light before we add some metallics to that. I might base layer the tubing with this grey as well, and then use some lighter colours later to bring those out. What colour is that tubing? I suppose it kind of just looks metallic and white, but yeah, we'll go through the greys on that one. Yeah. So, any more bits I can bring out with the grey? There's a few really small details just inside that coat on that jacket that's underneath the coat, the undershirt and stuff. Some really fine details in there, which is awesome. It's really fiddly to get in at without touching the other coat. So I just want to make sure that I do this mini some justice and try and go slow on it. Right, I'll take those ones off for the moment. Let's have a look at the reference. Yeah. So, he's got some metallics on his hat. I'll probably do those with lead belcher, I think, will be best. He's got some bits on his lapels, they'll also be lead belcher. All of the bits on his bandolier, they're probably going to be lead belcher. Belt buckles. Yeah, it seems like this is going to be a pretty simple mini to paint. So we need to go in and do those straps now, because all of his leather straps are a slightly different colour to the rest of his outfit. And obviously we want to give the definition on a lot of those. So it's kind of like a reddish brown. So I've got that. So I've got the fur brown from the Army Painter, which is sort of close to it, I guess, on the edges. Might have to do some mixing here. So you can see that it's a bit closer to a clay colour, I guess. Let's try and match it against the photograph. I don't think it's as clear. I wonder if I've got something around the corner. No. Okay. So, and I do have a palette at least. I can do some mixing in there and see how we work out. So I reckon if I put Cad there for a moment. It has been a while since I've used this paint, so hopefully it's not gone all gel-like on me. Maybe I'll need to open that up. Let's see. There we go. Trusty cocktail stick. Right, and mix that again. Yeah, so that looks quite light coming out of there. So I think I'm going to take some of our Rhinox hide. I'm going to add that in. I'll put some Rhinox hide there. Scoop of each, see what happens. Get cat voice so you can see. Yeah, I think that's going to work. So I can show you how that looks. It's quite bright. Yeah, so we're going to go with there, which is hopefully a bit of a closer tone than what we had before, and then we can build up to highlighting the edge with the fur brown. I think when it comes to D&D minis and to tabletop minis that are for more story-driven and, you know, party-level stuff, I tend to be a bit more freeing with the bright colours. I tend to use things like XV88 as a base for my leatherworks, and I like that. And I can't do that here because Cad wouldn't really have those really bright leatherworks. So the strap I'm just doing as one solid colour to begin with. I'm going in there enough to make sure that it is a line going straight across his chest, under that top lapel on his left shoulder, and then down the back. Don't know if you'll see that. I'm concerned about how fuzzy that is. I wonder if knocking the lights down a little bit will help. Let's see. No, I think that's still quite fuzzy, but hopefully you should see a slight contrast between the two browns on there. But on the bag, whereas I'm doing a solid strap colour, I'm going to try and pick out those bigger raised areas and those top edges, and then we'll highlight them again with those slightly, well, probably just straight with the fur brown where the light would hit. And then a trick I picked up, I can't remember who it was that showed me, is to use that Templar black and go underneath those lines and into some of the really darker areas, just to really re-highlight without having to add anything on top. And I really like that trick. I'm going to go in. We've got all of these blaster holsters as well, and I want to make sure that they're done justice as well. So we're going to go across a lot of the top and most raised edges, and hopefully blend in some colours or some other browns onto those as we layer up. But I definitely want that lower area to be darker, so I will try and keep as much of the rhinox hide as I can on anything where shadow would be. So I'm not a big fan of using washers, so try and make less work for myself there. I used to love them, and a lot of people are very good with them. Same with the contrast paints, they are very good at layering them up, but I am not. And I find that if I just layer up without them, I tend to get a better look for what I'm after. Now, there is a band around that hat. I'm going to go back to wearing my nerd goggles. Because I really want to get in there and get that top edge of that done at least. So. With the hat being brown as it is, I don't want to go over it because I'm trying to use that black primer as my base for those clothing items. Right, well, the non-leather items. I don't want to spill over because then I'll have to cover it in a thicker layer of the rhinox hide. And that will mean you'll see an obvious mistake on the miniature. So we're just going in, and actually a technique that was taught to me, I think it was YouTube again, is to paint the line before you touch the mini. So to pull back and then do gentle little tiny line movements until you make contact with the mini, so you can like really make sure you've got the right line and the right area to cover. What I find is I get less mistakes that way. It's a slower process, but it definitely works. There is, however, a slight mistake. I have gone over ever so slightly. He said as he was talking about making less mistakes. Luckily though, with the paint being thinned down, just add a bit of water, I can just thin it away. If that had been a bigger bit, I'd have been in trouble there. So, just going to get around the other side of this front. This is where the fun begins. Okay, so let's see if there's any other leather straps on there that we need to get. I think some of those edges on the bag do with a little bit extra. And what about does the belt need it? Possibly not. I think with the reference I've got, the bandolier belt that he's wearing around his waist has a line through the centre, and then you can see the top and bottom of the casings. Whereas on the miniature, it looks like you can see the top and bottom of the casing, but there's like a dented in line. Certainly not the same as the picture I'm looking at, so I'm probably going to leave that alone. Yeah, I don't want to go too far with that. Just in case. I think sometimes less is more. And when that's the case, I'm not going to try and overreach. Nice. So that's where we're going to go with that brown. And then let's have a look at. Right, I'm going to go in and do those contrast bits on the innards of that under jacket, because it's really starting to stand out now. So I'm going into those recesses and hoping that it will pool in those and then just leave a little bit of that thicker paint up the top. But I'm not going crazy, I'm not like coating it in it, I am trying to get into the recesses and paint in there without touching too much of the top highlights. I'm just going to push those blacks from the contrast paint just up onto where I need them to be. And hopefully it'll be nice and dark in the pools, and then we'll get a nice transition between them all. There we go. Perfect. That's what I like to see. Let's have a quick gander. At the reference. So I'm not going to go near the face just yet because I've just touched up obviously the jacket and the neckline, so I don't want to go too far with that. I think what I will do now Let's turn my light off so it doesn't glare into the camera. And then I'm going to get the lead belcher out. Once more find myself out of the Army Painter gunmetal, which is actually my go-to for base layers of metal and silver. Lead belcher is the closest I can find. Again, there's not much metal work to go with on CAD here. So I only need, I mean, I don't know if you can see that, the tiny smattering just there in my palette. Got used to the glasses now, finding that I'm having to use them. For those of you who don't have them, I do highly recommend the glasses. Not sponsored or anything, just that they are really good. I found that my painting improved massive amounts when they were suggested to me by a friend, Alex. And yeah, I wouldn't look back now. Especially when it comes to eyes and to those tiny edge lines, especially on like Tau. They make such a difference. And they usually all come with like many different like magnifications that you can switch out. At the moment, I mean, I'm only on the second most powerful of these, and it's usually all I ever need to go to. And then I find that I will go to the most magnification, I guess, the highest magnification for trying to do the light lines on eyes, but I really, really need to. So he's definitely got some rivets on his boots. I think these are definitely Clone War style ones because they're not referencing like the ones in the picture. So I'm going to go look those up now. Let's have a look. Yeah, they're black with jump jets on the side. So, how far do I go with this? Let's have a look. Yeah, okay. I think what I'm going to do is go back over them with the contrast black, and then start pulling out the edges on those. Some of the greys as well. But I can get those blasters. He has a nice mix of wooden and metallic blasters. Very Western. So that's sort of his theme. So this is another one of those areas, especially on things like the sight and the barrel, where it's sort of in an awkward place, so I'm having to like really stabilise my shaky hands. Because I don't want to paint into all of the like cracks and crevices. I really want some of them to stay black. Because I'm not going to add a wash to this. I'm going to just try and let it do its thing. And let the miniature sort of highlight itself, rather than using those washers. So it's just about painting each individual area as best I can without it seeping into those cracks, those divots, those lines. I realise as well, I haven't done his fingertips in the blue. So I will have to go and do that in a minute. Got some silver on the gauntlet there. Again, just trying to get those blasters nice and smooth, but also not paint into those cracks. The trouble with metallic paint is it's very easy to thin it down too much, as well as very easy to not thin it down enough. It's trying to find that happy medium. There we go. Just get the inside of this blaster. I'm almost using the side of the brush like it's a flat-headed brush when it comes to like those straight lines for the barrel, for where there are like these definitive man-made lines on the blaster pistols. Because I just want them to really kind of pop out. But if I go with the tip of the brush, especially across the tops there, it's just going to push the bristles apart and go into those recesses that I don't want them to go into. And there's that one. So, let us see if I can show that one off for you, but again, with the fuzziness of that camera being where it is, I think I'm going to need to take pictures of this and put it on socials later. So if you're watching this on YouTube and this is not, and you're not watching it live, go check out @Dragonborn Industries, and also my personal one, which is @the Dragonborn Bard, and I'll stick those links in the description below. I think that's what everybody says on YouTube, isn't it? I wonder if that camera will pick it up. Actually, I wonder. I'm going to see if... No, I don't have that layer set up. There's me thinking I had the big layer set up. I might have it on that one. No, that's really fuzzy. I have to sort out that camera. Too bright, too bright. We're learning, folks. Let's turn that one back. There we go. And we're back. So let's work out what's next. Oh, I missed out the bits on the hat. So he has on his really large Western style cowboy hat, he's got these like little metal plates, and I almost missed those. So let's get those done. Although my lead belcher is starting to separate there, so I need to mix that round again in a second. And again, I'm actually going to try and brush from the bottom and brush up. And I'm using a lot of that side of the brush rather than the tip, because I just don't want to go over that straight line that is between his hat and the edge of this metal plating. But I also need to be really, really careful of the leather band we've put in to make sure that we don't go onto that. So, right, it's probably a bit too much on that brush. I'm just going to let some of that paint come off. And we're going to go again on the other side. And right there, I've gone over. So, I'll wash my brush, take off a lot of that moisture, and I'm going to try and soak up this metallic that's gone over onto the top of the brown. But because it's metallic, I might have to do a finger dab. I got the majority of that off, but actually some of that's still on there. So unfortunately, I am going to have to cover that up in a bit, which means it's going to be a little bit uneven in terms of highlighting, but luckily it's on the top of the hat where light would be hitting anyway, so it should be hopefully okay in the end, but we will see. I think I've overloved this brush too much as well. As there's my favourite. This is the Artificer Layer. That and the Regiment from Army Painter are my two favourite brushes, and I just haven't bought any more in a while, and these two have taken an absolute hammering. Right, I need to go be careful again on this bit, because I really, really, really don't want to make that same mistake. Okay, we're good. We're good. Really thin line just behind his strap there. So what I will do once I've got this lead belcher on and once it's all dried, so I will go around a lot of those lead belcher areas with a little bit of shining silver from the Army Painter, and I'll just get those corners and just get those little highlight areas just to pull out some of that brighter silver. So that's that. I need to go in and do that contrast on the boots before I go any further. So let's do it. And again, we've got the brush loaded, but we're going nice and slow. And I think just to make a difference, I'm going to leave the soles of the boot brown, so we've got that nice difference in colour. And then he's got these heel guards. They're going to have to be done up in the lead belcher as well. And all the rivets on the side of the boots. Right, that is his left boot covered. Oh, some right there behind the leg and between the cloak. I'll go easy in that bit. I think what I will try and do, obviously this is Twitch right now, but if you're watching on YouTube, what I will do is before I upload it to YouTube, I will try and add a small section of pictures in at the end where we are hopefully showing what we've achieved in today's painting stream, finished or not. That way, with the fuzzy camera, you'll still be able to see what we've done. Because I've already painted the base plate, I'm just trying to make sure that I've not got any of that contrast paint going down onto the base itself, and I'm all good, I think. I can't see any there. few more bits I want to get with the lead belcher that I've missed. So we've got little bits like on his lapel, he's got these like little metallic tags, buttons. I'm not sure if he's got the little computer bits like he has in the picture. I'm still going to make sure I try and get as many of those bits to pop out as possible, because when we've got so much brown on there, it will at least give it something extra to look at. Let's have a look. Since that playlist has ended, let's go there. Go over some of those extra bits that we did before, just to try and even out some of those metallic paint lines and stuff, so it's a bit not thinner, evener, smoother. That's the word I'm looking for, evener. The more you watch my streams, and the more you see me out and about, you'll notice that I can't talk properly. And you'll get a lot of Ianisms. Right. Because it was only a thin layer of that contrast, I'm going to go in and try and get some of the boosters done on the boots. What's good is it doesn't overly matter if it is still slightly wet, because the boots are where most of the grime and dirt would be anyway. So actually, it works in our favour until it doesn't. There we go. The lead belcher. And I do believe is all on. So, I don't know if you'll see that from there. Let's bring it a bit closer again for you. We have. Should at least be able to see the colour difference there. Now I can go in and start highlighting up that face. So, how do I want to do this? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Cantor blue, and then I'm going to add in some of the Wolf Grey, I think, and I'm just going to start layering it up as a mixed tone. I also have this electric blue, which I really like. It's kind of like a dusty, bright blue, and it could be quite good for his skin tones, for like those higher cheekbones and for the just those highlights, really. Let's turn that up for a moment while we do some mixing. So a bit of Cantor. I'm going to thin that down a little bit before we start mixing. Right, mix up my Wolf Grey. Oh, cocktail stick's got to come back out. You can tell it's been a while since I've done an actual mini in blue. There we go. So, I've got some water added to the Cantor already. Take a nice scoop of Wolf Grey. And start mixing that one down. It's not bad, but I'm going to go a little further with a second small scoop. There we go. Right, so now I'm going to add a little bit more water, just to really blend those together. And then I'm going to change back to a thinner brush. So what I should say as well, actually, it's something that was taught to me a while ago. I have 2 pots of water here. I have this one, which I use for cleaning my brushes between paints and for offloading it. And then I have a pure water, which I use for mixing and for thinning paints. That way you're getting the true colour and you're not adding any pigmentation in that you didn't want to add in the first place. So I'm actually going to go for a thicker lens now. So I'm going to the, God, what my pitch is 2.5 times magnification, because I really want to kind of highlight a lot of those areas and then get the eyes just right. They have a little thing with eyes that I can't really show you on these cameras because I can't get in that close, as we've seen, where I like to leave the base colour around the eyes like eyeliner kind of. What I find is that, especially on human flesh tones, it just adds a bit more pop to the white of the eyes and it just adds a little bit more shape to them. So I do tend to leave that, and I'm going to see if that works here on Cad Bane. What's quite nice is Cad has this very, very triangular nose area that is going to pretty much be a solid colour. And he's got those eyebrows. What I should have done as well is when I put these together, I was really keen to put his hat on him. Should have left it off, as it's made painting this a whole lot harder. Yeah, but that is what it is. I'm actually going to get those fingertips now with this blue. Again, I'm just using little lines where I can see them. I'm not going too far because I just don't need to. Those dark colours are going to do the work in the recesses, so I'm quite literally just going around highlighting at this point. And there should be no real need for a wash. So my brush is starting to get a little bit thicker there. Say thicker, like starting to fan out a little bit. So I'm just gonna go back in, close off those bristles, and then carry on. Again, just for the face, just trying to make sure I've got that real steady hand. So obviously, when you make a mistake on a face, it really, really shows up. Or at least I find it does anyway, and we are going to be mostly looking at the face. But what just happened there is where my paint's quite thin, it's just run into the line of his mouth, and I do not want that. I actually want to dry off my brush and just suck that back up, because we want to keep that dark blue in that recess. That is going to be our definition. Right, so I will just get in on those cheekbones. So a lot of the cheekbone is hidden by that black face mask. Where it meets, we've done that grey line. You want that bit to pop out. You also want the underside of the eyes. So we've got the brows in on the mini, but there's also, like where the top of the cheekbone meets the eye, there's also a nice little ridge line in there. That's going to want to be highlighted up, but not going too far, so as to like, well, pour blue into the eye basically. Nice and light. Nice and light. And we've got those lines of where the face mask sort of becomes a T and goes towards his ears. We are trying to keep those nice and clean. A little bit of an overspill on one of them, but I will be able to clear that up with some of the black when we get to highlighting. Those areas. Nice. Yeah, let's go in and get the other bits of those fingers that are across the front pistol. So what I will most likely do is have to stop this stream when I'm at the end of these layers and then carry on with the highlighting once it is fully dried in a few hours, because I do not want to make a mistake on this. I don't want it to like seep over into area, and I don't want like the highlights to not show up, especially on that blue skin, because that's the colour that we really want to pop. Yeah. I also think what I might do is go grab my other black paints. I don't think I've got my Chaos Black or my Abaddon Black here, just to kind of mix in with some of that Mechanicus Grey and really get the edge of the face cowl, or that face covering. I'm definitely happy with how that's going. It's I feel like it's definitely going well. What I might also do later on when I come back to do the highlighting tonight is to move one of the cameras so that we have a more direct approach looking down and maybe get a little less fuzz. Just having a look over to make sure there's no studs or no areas that I've missed with the lead belcher, and there actually are. Take some of that out. Tiny, tiny tip of it. Wash my brush. Grab a little bit of pure water. Don't need all that much, take some of that off. Just got a nice thin tip to that brush. And we're just going to get those bag clasps done up. So that's that one. I may as well, I'm going to get those rivets on the inside of his boot, because I think that they're going to be metal as well. And if not, I like that they are, and they're just kind of going to pop against that black. I also need to get, now that it's dry, those heel plates. I'm just trying to use those light brush strokes just to kind of get in where I need to and no further. So I'm going to need a bit more lead belcher. It's a bit stingy with it. Tiny, tiny dab of water. I'm going to get the other boot. quite nice about not using washers is I also don't need to get right into those recesses with the lead belcher on the jump boosters, because we have the black on there from before. It's going to act as our shadow. So I'm going to take it in as far as I can, but then I'm actually going to leave a decent area so it's got that separation between the two items on the boots, those two little details. I think I might layer up some of that coat brown now. And for that, I am going to mix two different colours. Let's have a quick look at the reference. See, it's not far off the Rhinox hide as it is. I wonder if... So, there's leather brown from the Army Painter. That could mix in quite well with the Rhinox hide, but then I am a sucker for XV88. Real sucker for it. And I wonder if mixing that up will be beneficial here. Might have a large palette and nothing but time, so let's have a look. A little bit of Rhinox hide, let's clean that one off. Another reason to have two different bits of paint is to not contaminate your paints. Two different bits of paint, two different bits of water, sorry, is to not contaminate your paints. So, I've got a scoop of each. Let's just see what happens. Bring this one down so I can see a bit better. As I realise, without my glass, those nerd glasses on, it's now really hard to see. I need to angle the lights in this room a bit better, I think. Right, actually, that's not bad. It's kind of like a muddy colour, which I'm not displeased with. So I'm going to thin that out a little bit, just to make it last. So that was 1 part to 1 part. I'm going to do some coat highlighting, do some layers on that. Back on with the glasses, but I'm actually going to go back down to the 2.5 because I don't need to be quite so detailed on the coat. I just need to get those areas that the light would hit. You could dry brush this on, one way you could do it, but I find that at the moment I'm really favouring those like cartoon lines of just like the heavy highlighting. Try and bring this down a bit closer so that I can see a bit better. Hopefully that won't be too bad for you guys. Right, let's go Cad Bane. So I'm going to try and get these top edges of things like his trousers and those highlighted and lifted lines of clothing. Maybe things like, there's like a line, the zipper line. And that's probably going to be nice in one solid colour. A nice definitive area. I think the lapels standing out as one solid colour as well could be very good. least if not the top edges of them. Yeah. It's subtle, but I like it. Get some of those top lines on other bits as well. Follow some of those like creases in the pants. I don't need to go nuts on this, just getting those top highlights, those top edges where light would hit things. So kneecaps, top fold lines of clothes. Especially he's got these like big areas at like the top of his knees where he's wearing like a second set of trousers. I don't know my riding terminology. So I couldn't say what they're actually called, but they are cool. Chaps? Is that the word? So this is where the fun begins here, because we need to get those top lines where the sleeves are, but not go too far into the recesses of the detail, because we do want that coat to still be dark. What's quite nice is there are very definitive lines to go with that are on the model. Although we can put a spine of the paint up the centre, all we have to do is follow those raised areas with this ever so slightly lighter brown. And that should hopefully give us that light tone that we're after. Obviously the top of the hat, I need to fix a mistake, and I will have to go in a bit heavier in certain places, so I'm going to overcompensate on the shoulders, so where the clothing is sort of like at the apex of height and it would be hitting the light if it was coming from directly above, I'm going to do those in a bit more of a solid block of colour with this lighter shade. That way hopefully the hat doesn't look as silly when we get to adding a big sploop like that. I'm trying not to now go over and make the mistake in reverse and go on to the metallic areas that we've done. Cool. So we have that bit covered. Now we need to work out how much of the rim we're going to be doing, because obviously it's quite a wide area that would catch the light, but at the same time we still want to give it that definition of movement or the depth of the other colours. If I just went across there and did it in one colour, there'd have been no point to dry brushing that first layer of brown on. We still need that black to show through. But we also need to appreciate that this is probably where the most light is going to be hitting. His hat is shading him from a lot of the suns that you would have out in the galaxy, especially if you're on Tatooine. So, just trying to leave. There's like areas where the hat folds and goes down. I'm trying to leave those as that Rhinox hide and dry brushed black. This is actually probably one of my weaker areas of painting, is doing stuff like this. I can be very impatient with myself, especially with very thin paint. Because I actually found the Boba Fett helmet I was wearing at the start of this video, I made that for my 5-year-old, and it's got some growing room because I mean I fit into it. But I think I painted it the day before because I actually didn't have long to paint it from getting it printed and sanded and whatnot. And I added sealer to it so that it was, you know, safe for him to throw around and not scratch up and be upset about it being damaged. Then I added a second layer of sealer too quickly because I wasn't patient, and I ended up having to strip it all back because it went white. I'm not going to get that trouble with acrylic, but just in case I end up with any like merging or taking away any of that paint, I'm just going to leave it once we've got a layer on, and I'll do another layer later. So let's have a look at that for now. So what we should have, if you can see it on the hat, we've tried to leave some of those areas, like the little dip at the front and the one near the back. We've left those darker. We've also then got, hopefully you can see it on the shoulders there, that we're trying to highlight the model a little bit better as we're going through and through. But I'm going to leave the stream there for now, and I'm going to come back later tonight. I've got to go do family stuff, which is, you know, the point of being a dad. It's great. However, I will come back and I will finish this on stream later for the rest of Star Wars Day. Probably going to be around the 8 o'clock mark, probably do it for a couple of hours and just kind of get those highlights done, get those eyes done. In fact, I'm going to put the eyes in now so that I have the base layer for those done. Obviously they're nice and red, and I know exactly what I'm going to use for that. I have a corn red, and they are going to be the perfect base. This is, however, where we want real big magnification time. Because I also really want a very fine brush, so I'm actually going to wet the brush first, just the tip, and take a little bit onto the brush, and then I'm going to try and get into those eyes, hoping that because I've wet the brush first, the paint should just seep straight off. Yeah. Into those recesses. So, wet the brush first. Grab the tiniest nib of paint, and we're going to go again on the other side. There we go. Perfect. Now we're going to leave the stream and we're going to come back later on. So hopefully we'll see you later today.